Welcome to Inside Steelers Nation on SNR. I'm Randy Slack with Matt Williamson, Dale Lolley joining us shortly. Well, the Steelers have an opponent, and it's the opponent that I think a lot of the guys in that locker room wanted to face. I know Ben Roethlisberger openly said he wanted another shot at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this Sunday at Heinz Field, they get another chance at them.
Yeah, and an expected matchup, as you said. Buffalo gave them a harder time than we thought. Low-scoring game, of course. I mean, the story of that one to me was Bortles can't complete passes. I mean, it was windy. I mean, he's a Florida guy. I'm sure there'll be some form of weather to deal with here Sunday, either cold or wet or rain or wind or something. It's not going to be a dome. And he doesn't handle it well. I mean, he needs things to be optimal. And so he made some plays with his legs. Wonderful, but, you know, the level opponent that they're playing is much steeper this week and on both sides of the ball, obviously. But their defense is really good. They're hard to play against. The thing I keep coming back to, though, is that first matchup. Remember how many passes Bortles threw?
How many?
14.
Ooh.
I mean, they ran the ball over and over and over because the Steelers turned the ball over, and they allowed them to. And eventually Fournette's broke off the 90-yarder. But other than that, I think he averaged well under 4 yards a carry. Mm-hmm. I mean, their offense, I have worries about the Steelers' defense, but I don't have fear at all of the Jags' offense.
Yeah, it was 9-7 Pittsburgh, 8:54 left in the third. Back-to-back pick sixes, the late Leonard Fournette touchdown. Other than that, if you take out the pick sixes,
right,
then you're looking at like a 17-9 game. Just a lot more manageable.
Right.
And really, if they don't give up that run at the end because the defense has just been on the field the entire game, then you're looking at 9-10.
Right,
on
and the defense was on the field the whole time.
Yeah,
right. You know, they were worn down, and they kept running and running because they could. And, yeah, that run really doesn't matter. I mean, they had a bunch of people near the line of scrimmage trying to make a big play late in the game, and he broke free. And if it would have been on the 20, it would have been a 20-yard run. You know what I mean? So, again, their offense, especially as the weather hits, does not frighten me at all. But one thing that really stood out to me in that first game, and times changed a lot, but the Jags wanted Ben to throw.
Yes.
You know, they crowded the line of scrimmage. They feared Bell, rightfully so. Their run defense was worse then than it is now. Now they have Darius, which has been helpful. And, you know, Ben came to the line of scrimmage, saw one-on-one matchups against their corners and said, that's where I'm going with the football. I mean, I'm Big Ben, and no one can cover AB one-on-one. You can't fall into that trap, you know, that
right.
No one can cover AB one-on-one, but they want you to throw, and they're going to come after you. They're going to hit you, and I think you just have to, in this case, you have to be patient, and you just got to keep handing it to 26, and punting's okay.
Yeah, that offense, that game in general was just a bad game to watch.
I mean, it's
the
bad
Jags
quarterback
Bills
play.
was not a good game. We'll get into the other games, you know, as the show progresses, and of course we'll hear about hear a little bit from practice with when Dale arrives. But it really, really comes down to quarterback play in the postseason, and Blake Bortles is, if you had to compare, it's going to come down to Blake versus Ben. I'm taking Ben 10 times out of 10.
Oh, yeah. And
didn't mean for that to rhyme, by the way.
I mean, even Tyrod Taylor in that game, a big knock on Taylor that people don't understand if you don't watch all 22 tape is there's a lot of times that the coach designs a play, you get the coverage you want, the guy's open, and Taylor doesn't release the ball or doesn't see him, takes a check down or runs it or does something that the coach doesn't design him to do. Mm-hmm. And that to me, watching that game was a big case too. You know, where Jacksonville's D on paper was really, really good in that game, but McCoy was banged up and they have no weapons. Like, their defense is great, don't get me wrong, but what I'm getting at is Ben would have picked them apart more than Taylor would have. You know, looked like there was open guys, and I'm excited to watch the all-22 to see if I'm right. And, you know, Romo was even hitting at it a couple times, like, well, he had this post route open, you know, and didn't choose to go there. But sometimes you got to drive the ball down the field. And obviously the Steelers' running game to me is more impressive as well, especially with McCoy being banged up. And, you know, they were doing everything possible to take the run away.
Now, with Blake Bortles, let's play devil's advocate here for a second, because this is a playoff game. It's a divisional round game. It should be competitive.
Sure.
Bortles has had a few games this year against some porous defenses where
He's played pretty well all year.
He had a 3-game stretch where he threw for like 900 yards, no touchdowns. So he can do that. And we have seen the Steelers defense, granted mostly when Joe Hayden's not on the field, give up some yards to your Brett Hundleys and your Joe Flacco's and things like that. So it's not out of the total realm of possibility for Blake Bortles to do something. I guess what I'm trying to get at, long story short, is now Blake's played a playoff game in a game where everybody expected, hey, you guys should win. How much do you think that could have been in his head of, man, I really can't screw this up because we're playing the Bills and the Bills aren't a good team, and he's maybe trying too hard and forcing some passes and just maybe not letting the offense come, because he was missing screen passes and short throws. It was horrible.
And I bet that there's some truth to that, and I'm sure the coaches said, just don't turn it over. And especially when it got to the point, a quarter or two in where he can't even complete a pass, I'm sure they're just saying, if it's not there and it's not wide open, just run. Because that started to work. And that's not going to work in the playoffs against most opponents. I mean, the quarterback has to make throws. I mean, I would think that goes without saying. But, I mean, they did win here when he only threw 14 times. And I do think you're right about that. However, I keep coming back to the weather, that he is a Florida guy that played in Florida in college. He's even said he's not a, quote, natural thrower of the football, which is a weird thing for a quarterback to say, but he has said that.
It's kind of job one for those guys.
Right, yeah. And he isn't. And his ball doesn't handle the elements well. And there's going to be something here, and I think that's a big deal. I think that we should hope for breezy, something Ben deals with every day.
A little rainy, maybe.
A little wet or whatever. But you're right. I mean, honestly, 80% of the year, he was an average NFL quarterback, and you kind of mentioned it, that he really did his best work against bad defenses. Fine, and every defense is going to try to take the run away, that they want you to throw, and the Steelers will probably do the same thing, and that makes perfect sense. But their receivers aren't horrible. Guys like Westbrook can get open deep, and, I guess it comes down to this. I mean, is the Steelers a good defense or a bad defense? I mean, good defenses Bortles struggles with, bad defenses he doesn't, and I'm not sure what the Steelers is. I know they allow way too many big plays.
They allow a lot of those, and then with Ryan Shazier out, obviously, that opens up, that potentially could open up things for Leonard Fournette, or if Blake Bortles decides he wants to scramble around, who are they going to have? Are they going to have a spy? Do you need to?
Well, I think you go back to playing a lot of zone against these guys. Take away the big play. They don't have a threat that really scares you that you want to match up against. I think you want a lot of eyes on Bortles so that if he does scramble, you get there quicker. If you're playing a lot of man, you get beat against quarterback scrambles more, obviously. So I would think it's a more conservative game plan. But maybe the biggest advantage Pittsburgh has, in my opinion, is when Jacksonville has the ball, the big people. Like the Jags O-line, a lot of people will be like, boy, their O-line's pretty good because, they're a running team and they win and their formula. It's okay. I mean, it's below average. Yeah. I mean, I think Hayward and Tuitt and those guys should dominate the trenches. Especially, one complaint I've had about Butler, and we haven't seen it as much lately, is a lot of slanting and gap exchange stuff and a lot of movement up front, designed movement up front with your big guys. And sometimes that gets you out of position or makes it easier to just keep pushing in the same direction and open a hole. And I think Shazier made up for some of those things, but if you play it more straight up, line up, beat the guy in front of you, and hold the point a little bit more, I don't think Fournette's going to have a lot of room to run. And he's kind of been a mixed bag this year too. Like, yeah, he's immensely talented, but I think he came out and said something like, wow, this NFL's a long year. These guys are hitting a bit of a wall that are young, that have never carried the ball this many times. He has a chronic ankle situation. I mean, I thought he was fine. I mean, he flashes still, but I don't think he's a dominant player anymore.
Yeah, 37 carries for 231 yards for the Jags in that first game. So that would mean...
But one was a 90-yarder, right?
Yeah, so then you're looking at 121 yards on 36 carries.
That's not much. I mean, that's under 4.
Yeah, 3.3.
Right.
I think you'd give that up for a team.
Oh, you take that all day
That
long.
is a running team.
Yeah,
Especially for this team.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what they're trying to do.
But hopefully that that they don't run the ball 36 times and beat you over the top on play action twice. That somebody doesn't get behind you because you're misread a coverage or blow something, or there's an overmatched situation in the secondary. That could happen, as you said. Bortles has made throws this year.
Yeah. Now, you touched on something there a little bit ago where you said that, they should, play the zone and have more of a conservative approach. Don't you want to attack Blake and make him
I'm not saying
try to
don't
force
blitz.
him into some mistakes?
I still think you can blitz a high percentage. I just think that because he is a good runner and he's not a good thrower, that and maybe you want to vary things too, because he's not Tom Brady. You could probably trick him from time to time to, throw a variety of things at them. I just don't think that their receiving weapons are that dangerous where it's like, boy, we really need to get Burns on this guy or Payton on this guy because we can't let this, a specific player really beat you. And they don't have much at the tight end position. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that there's a real wrong answer of how to play defense against these guys, to be honest with you.
They've scored. They're a very bizarre team.
They are.
They went from a stretch from November 26th through December 24th. It was a 5-game stretch. They scored 24 points or more. In fact, they scored 30 or more for those games. They scored 30, 30,
Who are
45,
they against?
and 33. Indy,
They're
Seattle,
awful. Yeah.
Houston, at San Francisco. And the game before that that they scored 24 was at Arizona. But they're scoring some points.
Yeah, right.
Then against Tennessee, at Tennessee, they scored 10. And
Tennessee seems to have their number, though.
Was on a scoop and score, or it was on a defensive touchdown, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then they only scored 10 against Buffalo. So they've only scored 20 points in the last two games.
They have not finished well. I mean, going into the playoffs, they looked like a team that was primed to get beat if they were playing a quality opponent. Even the defense has been a little worse than it was, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the sacks aren't coming in as many bunches. And the thing about their defense, and we'll talk about this a lot all week, but they don't out-scheme you. They're a real heavy cover 3, cover 1 team. You'll see cover 4 and blitz on third down. But they're just really good. Seattle's like that too. But if you have Cliff Averill and Bennett and Wagner and, Chancellor, Pro Bowlers everywhere, that's smart. I always equate it to like when I was a Pitt and we would play the U, they had first-round picks all over their defense, so they played a 4-3 stack, and they played man on the outside, and they never changed because their Jimmies and Joes were better than ours.
Talent wins.
Talent wins, right.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Vilma and Wilfork and Sean Taylor, and first-round picks everywhere. So, and in a way, that's where Jacksonville is at now. Like, sure, they'll blitz some, and they'll change things up here and there, but they don't really have to, and you can sort of scheme things open. If you know that you're going to get a lot of cover 3, you run cover 3 beaters, and to that degree. But the Jalen Ramseys of the world make some problems go away from that respect from them too. They're really talented.
A lot of wild games over the wild card weekend, and more NFL news coming out. And of course, we'll hear from Dale Lolley when he arrives momentarily, talking Steelers practice and what went on today. This is Inside Steelers Nation on SNR.